Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Better Way Thursday workshop. It's great to see you. We've got a really fun and a little bit of a different conversation today. We're here with Jen Guerra, who is going to introduce herself, but she talks about managing stress, health, wellness, other things like that. She's going to tell you a little bit about her story and other things, but this is a topic that we probably don't talk about as much as we should, because we all know, like, being working moms, working in a high stress, fast paced industry, it can be a lot. And we know, we all see the different things that we're dealing with the challenges and barriers that we're facing in our careers and as our lives, just as women, the different things that we're doing. And so I'm excited to learn from Jen today. About how to manage and move forward more healthily in our professional lives and our personal lives. So, Jen, I'm just going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and share your presentation. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, Robin. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. It's a total pleasure. So, yeah, again, my name is Jen. I have she, her pronouns, and I work as a health coach and a health education specializing in stress management. And I have a side business, and then I also work at a university and I work with students. So it keeps me very busy. And I also have a 4-year-old. So I am going to go ahead and share my slides because I do talk a little bit about that in there. So 1 second. And there we go. Wonderful. So, yes, I am here today to talk with you all about managing stress specifically in your tech career and as moms. And I guess this is special to me because I have worked my whole life, and now that I have a child, it's a lot. It's a lot to balance. And a lot of the students that I work with go into tech, and so I talk with them all the time about what this is going to be like. I do want to make a note that I myself don't work in tech. I'm in higher education. I'm a health coach. So I want to note that you are the experts here, and I would love any and all feedback that you have after this presentation. So I totally welcome that. So with that, this is who I am. I'm a mama. This is a couple pictures of me and my son, Colton. He's 4, about to be 5. I'm a professional. I work full time, like I said. I am a person in recovery. So I have a routine that helps me to practice being calm and helps me not to rely on substances. And I really am a calm seeker. Um, it's been a struggle my whole life, I'll be honest, but that's sort of each day I just try to do my best, and when we know how it goes, when we make a mistake, we just try again the next day. So that's a little bit about me, and then I want to note some goals for this talk today. And it's going to be very practical. You'll probably hear some things that you've heard before out there in the health industry, but I tried to make it really niche for our purpose here today, which is your tech career and as moms. So I hope that you walk away from this with several new ideas and just practical tools that you can implement right away. That's my hope. And some ideas for improving your mindset, as it's rush, 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 and the negative thoughts come in. So we want to work on that positive mindset that can set you up for more success in your life and in your career. And if nothing else, I want to remind you about how awesome you are and just sort of be a big cheerleader. Yeah, so let's move on to the next slide. So we all know what stress looks like. In a lot of my presentations and workshops for students, I go over physiology of stress and what happens in the body, and we go over the fight and flight. But overall, we know what it looks like. And I know that if I don't take care of myself, I get into those moments of overwhelm. I react rather than respond, and I am not optimized. Like I don't do as well as I want to at work and at home. So, while it does take work, it's worth it to find ways to manage our stress. So, in researching this, I wanted to find out more about specifically women in the tech industry. And I wanted to note some facts and also note that you are the experts here. But I found that 35% of tech industry workforce are women or female. 40% of women in STEM careers leave their jobs after the first 5 years. So I found that really interesting, but also not that surprising because of the stress, because of, well, I think we'll get into it, right? But like for me, what I understood is the suffering in silence. You need to appear confident and you need to like have everything together. And in a male dominated industry, and when that happens, we internalize things and that stress can show up in our bodies, right? So we got to figure out a way to get that out. so, and so yeah, one note I wanted to make was coping versus prevention. And what I mean by that is when we're coping, we're in a reactive state and we're almost like dodging those stressful moments, avoiding toxic stress. And in the short term, it's okay, right? We're designed for that. We can adapt. But when we live in that high stress area, it's not good, as we know. So I want to talk today a little bit about like building and maintaining a cushion for stress and just noting that over time with practice your resilience will build and you'll be able to yeah, react better to stress, feel more calm overall, and that's the goal. So one thing that's kind of near and dear to my heart a little bit is that I have to note that there's no place for shame. And we often categorize our actions into good versus bad habits. And that means, you know, maybe we have a really good meal and we're binge on some ice cream and it's like bad. But I want to change that mindset and make a note that there are no bad foods. In my journey in my career, we stray really away from the dieting cycle. And we note how dangerous it is and how ineffective. So, specifically food wise, we like to say there's no bad foods. They're coping mechanisms. We go through seasons, and really it's the body trying to survive. So, even if you come today with some bad habits or things that you want to change, it's okay. And it doesn't do any good to feel, yeah, shame about it or it's just to note, oh, I want to make this different. I want to change my habits to be healthier in this way. But yeah, just really straying away from this good versus bad habits. So, in that same category, too, these unhelpful thoughts that can creep up when stress ensues, definitely. On the right here, there's some unhelpful thinking styles that are noted. So, you'll notice, I'm sure these sound familiar, but all or nothing, jumping to conclusions, using should or I should do that or I need to do that, labeling things. So, these are all ways that would not, they would counteract like where we want to go, right? And we want to focus on telling ourselves motivating, positive things. And in that sense, it creates a good mindset for moving forward with creating good habits and de-stressing.
Jen, can I just ask us to stay on this slide for a minute because there's a lot of information here. And
Yeah.
I think this is so helpful. So I'm just like vamping a little bit so people as they're watching or listening can really take a moment and look at these slides. I first started seeing some of these similar unhelpful thinking styles when we took one of our children to therapy when our kid was a pretty young kid, and they had these framed for children, like they had a little monster that did these, and different things like that. But it was really the first time that I learned about some of these different negative thought patterns and the ways that we hold ourselves back and kind of beat ourselves up and put ourselves in a situation without knowing it. Like it's not our fault. These are natural reactions to so many things. But I think it's really helpful for us to just take a minute and even if you need to pause the video for a second and really read through all these different unhelpful thinking styles and maybe recognize a couple, maybe you're about to do this, but maybe recognize a couple that we know that we do, right? I think sometimes that that we pull into this, and some of these I think we'll recognize, oh yeah, that's the one, that's my default, right? Or that's one that I tend to go to. And I think sometimes being aware of those can really help us to recognize that, oh, when I start doing that, when I start jumping to conclusions, or when I disqualify the positive or whatever, I can say, oh, wait, I learned about this. I know that this isn't the right way for me to move forward. It's not going to be the most helpful way. So I just wanted to like give us a little bit more time with that slide. I hope you could even read while I was talking that whole time. But you know me, I love to talk, everybody. So, okay, thank you so much for taking that pause with me.
Absolutely. Robin, thank you so much for jumping in because this is so important. And oh, I forgot what I was gonna say to your point, but I totally agree. And it's just awareness is really important around this. I love to hear that there's a kids version for our kiddos to learn because learning this early on is so important. Yeah, like just feeling a feeling, so that must be true, and it's not. Oh, and in specifically in problem solving in tech, like when I was reading up on this too, it's like the FIO, figure it out, this urgency to solve problems. And maybe it doesn't happen right away, but we want to keep your mind on track to yeah, keep it in check, right? So that you can get there in a positive way and not beating yourself up the whole time. So yeah, thank you for jumping in there. Yeah, so I want to make a note here about this special nerve in our body called the vagus nerve, and it's Vegas, not Vegas, but maybe a trip to Las Vegas would do you good, and that's totally great. But today we're going to talk about this nerve that has to do specifically with calming the body. I get excited because I'm a health nerd, but it's pretty cool. So it's responsible for calming after stress, helps regulate health rate and heart rate and blood pressure, this high vagal tone. So when we are calm, it's kind of like a vibe, if you will, is associated with lower heart rate. It prevents inflammation. And it's pretty, I have an image in the next slide, but it runs all the way from like the back of your neck here through the intestinal organs, branches out all over. So, and we're going to go into how to channel this and activate it basically. So this is an image of the vagus nerve going all the way up down into your organs, and it hits almost everything. It's really incredible. And one way, so how do we get calm? That's the question, right? And when we're balancing family and work and all these things, how do we do that? So let's dive into it. But one thing you want to keep in mind is what can you control? So while control isn't my favorite word to use, it's applicable here. And when we talk about stress, I think of overwhelm a lot and feeling out of control. So that's kind of how that ties together. Practicing those positive thought habits, just like we said, embracing various seasons and cycles in life. So one example that I thought of was, when we first have babies and life is literally like feeding, changing, and napping the baby, like that is all day. That's one season. And, our self-care is a little lower, but it will pass and things will change. Children grow, they become a little more independent. And then we as mamas can get back to taking care of ourselves and maybe getting back to work and getting into things that we really enjoy, which is super important for our health. So breathing, that's where the vagus nerve comes in. How do we engage this parasympathetic nervous system? So this sounds probably somewhat familiar. We have the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, and then the parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. So the power of your breath is just something that is so accessible. And I know a lot of folks have trouble with meditation. So I like to kind of dive in first to breathing exercises, and then we introduce meditation. But the power of your breath can calm you down, especially if you have anxiety or even panic attacks. It's just really, it's right there at our fingertips and it's helpful. So here's a list of 4 different styles of breathing that I really enjoy, and you can look them up on YouTube after this, or I have a channel. But diaphragmatic breathing is breathing right from your rib area, and it increases calm. Kundalini breath of fire, the yoga style. And that's almost like panting, and you breathe through your nose really fast, but it can increase energy. So these are things like, I'm stressed out, I need to calm my body. This is a tool. Or maybe it's 3 o'clock and I'm exhausted, but I need to get through the workday. So I need to increase my energy. Instead of having that extra cup of coffee, you could try a breathing exercise. Box breath, really helpful for just taking it down. That's when you do four counts in, holding for 4 counts, 4 counts out, holding for 4 counts. And it's just a little kind of box shape. And then the ego eradicator is what you'll see in the picture here. And it's a little more advanced, but it's super simple, and it increases clarity, focus, and your energy as well. And what the purpose behind this hand mudra, it's called, is the energy. It gives the energy a place to go and flow. So as you're breathing and your arms are extended, your the energy in your body can have somewhere to be put instead of just like cycling and causing more stress. So pretty cool.
Okay, and
Have you
Jen,
ever
you're saying you've got a channel where you can walk us through some, so we can go to your channel and you can walk us through some of these exercises. Because some of them I've done before. I've done box breathing, I've done some of these other things, but like some of the other ones I hadn't. So I'm super interested in going to see what they're like. So you can, and maybe we can put in the description box for our video, where to find those videos of yours, so we can get some practice and a little more instruction on some of these. Will that work?
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay. Yeah. So again, breathing techniques, super accessible. Grounding is a wonderful technique. And a little bit later in the presentation, I go into the importance of nature. Working in a tech industry is really important to balance with nature. But grounding is simply having your feet outside, either on the grass or the dirt, and it improves sleep, it improves focus, calm, and it's just one of those the natural things that happens with our body, because our body really syncs with the vibe of nature. But when we're in front of a screen and working all day, we get off kilter, basically. So engaging the vagus nerve, as we talked about, and then meditation. And here's a couple of my favorite forms of like easy beginner meditation. You can look at your thoughts in your mind's eye as leaves flowing on a stream, so that sometimes, rumination, or if you can't fall asleep, the thoughts are just going and going. You practice seeing them as flowing leaves on a stream. There's also clouds floating by. Someone once told me a train, and that was a little too intense. I said that doesn't help me calm down. But there's different imagery that you can use to help meditate, and so you're not just like sitting in silence. It makes it a little easier. So one skill that I like to highlight is creating a morning routine and making it work for you. And why I say that is, as a mom, it does not happen in the morning. Most mornings it's rush, rush, rush. But sometimes I get to work and I'm able to do a quick meditation. And this can look like 2 minutes of quiet time for yourself. It can look like lighting a candle. Yeah, like sipping some tea, coffee, just something that really is for yourself. And it works at the beginning of the day to start out, but you can do it at any time. That's what I learned. You have to be adaptable. So um, yeah, and I'd be happy to talk more about specific morning routines at some point. So finding social support, super important for our stress levels. And I have to put in here, Robin, that I am an introvert by nature. So my instinct is to isolate, binge watch a show, read a book. But when I do reach out to friends and have a meal and get some support, I notice that I feel a lot better. So that's super important. So finding things in common with other people, you can go to meetup.com if you need to find certain groups or interests. Sharing and being vulnerable is great, but I always like to note that vulnerability is a choice, and you don't have to just like blurt out all your personal stuff. It's up to you to share what you like. And another note too, and this is a whole nother chat, I feel like, Robin, but healthy boundaries.
Mhm.
Making sure that we know how to say no, and keeping boundaries with people in our lives can be, it can make or break our stress levels sometimes. So that's one that I've learned through mistakes too. It's a good one. Healthy boundaries. Joining a club or team that you enjoy, and then making a plan, inviting somebody. So sometimes we're all wanting to do something, but being the one to initiate it, because there's a lot of people who are lonely. And yeah, so just being the one to reach out is good.
Yeah, and I wanted to jump in with this because when you mentioned that you were an introvert, and I think it can be easy to mistake like what it really means to be an introvert. Like an introvert doesn't mean that you want to be alone all the time, right?
Right.
It
Yeah.
means so many different things, but I think sometimes that we can use that as well. I'm an introvert, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable. It doesn't feel great to reach out to people. I'm a little bit scared or whatever, but recognizing everybody needs people, right? Everybody needs that human contact and building close relationships with people and having the time to be with others. And introverts need more alone time, right, than maybe extroverts do, but nobody needs 24/7 alone time. That will destroy us, right? And so just making sure, even though you're an introvert, that you're finding ways to connect with others. And I know that it can be hard for us, but I love what you said here, that many people are lonely, and that if we are reaching out, I mean, I don't love that. I hate that, right? It's so hard that so many people, that we're having this epidemic of loneliness. So I love your tip here to say there are people who are craving your attention, your time, your social connection. And so even if you're feeling like, oh, maybe I don't want to bother anybody or whatever, um, it's so important to do this, and it's something that every single person needs.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. There's a recovery tool where you reach out and you ask someone how they are. So in doing so, you're helping them, you're connecting, but you're helping yourself by getting out of your own kind of stuff. But you don't know how that might help somebody. Yeah, by just reaching out and saying hi, or just how are you, that kind of thing. Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Robin. So, kind of obvious after this many slides, right? But self-care is super important, and finding what works for you, because this can be so different for everybody. Maybe self-care is being super extroverted and making plans with friends, or maybe it's going inside a little bit, but taking a moment to figure out what works for you is really important, and what you enjoy, what brings you joy is really important. It's a simple idea, but really impactful. So,
Can I share something with self-care? Maybe go back to that slide for a second.
absolutely.
That I have a niece who has been a therapist, and she gave my family a workshop once,
Yeah.
where she was talking about self-care. And I think this is particularly relevant to moms because sometimes, like, our lives are so full, we are so busy, and it's just easy to say, I don't have time for a massage. I don't
Yeah.
have time to get 8 hours of sleep a night. I don't have time for a bubble bath, like a lot of the things that we think of. And so she gave us this rubric of self-care um, ideas, and some of them would take 1 minute, right? So there was a list of things that took 1 minute. Do you have 1 minute? Everybody can find 1 minute, right? Or
Yeah.
if you've got 10 minutes, half hour, hour. So like there was a whole, it was a grid. And so a bunch of them were how much time it takes. And
Mm,
then others were broken down by cost, right? Like these
mm,
are things that are free. These
mm,
are things that are very low cost. These are things that are maybe more expensive, so you're doing them less often. And then the third kind of row in this grid that she had was if you need to do it with other people, or if you can do it by yourself. And so
mm,
I loved having like this big list, and I'm sure that you've got resources like that, but also we can find them online, to say, what is something right now? I've got 10 minutes, but I don't have any money and I'm only by myself. What can I do? And getting some ideas there, because I think we tend to go to our favorites. But
mm.
recognize there's so many different things we can do, that even if limited resources, limited time, whatever, that will still help us feel better, where we are really taking care of ourselves. So I loved that tool, that rubric that she gave us to find ways to take care of ourselves.
Oh, that's wonderful. Was that for tech moms or for yourself personally?
Well, she did this for our family. She did
For
it
the
for a
family.
family reunion,
Yeah,
yeah, but I should reach out and share with the tech moms. There was some
that's
good stuff in there,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love decreasing the barriers to care, like you said, because sometimes we're so overwhelmed. I know I am that I can't even think about, yeah, in this minute, or maybe it's just okay, Netflix. Like that's just the first thing that I can do that maybe would recharge my batteries. I love that. I would love to see that. Yeah, so this is one of my favorite and simple tools, and it's called a worry box, aka God box, and it's quicker than journaling. It physically helps you let go, and all you do is you jot down on a post-it or a little notepad what it is that's taking up space in your head, and you get it out, write it down, and then you put it away. And there's something amazing about it that lets it go a little bit. And trust me, I've had to write down the same things many times. But if I don't have, 30 minutes to sit down and journal, it's super easy just to create a little note and put it in my worry box. So that's pretty fun. So your space, this is great. Yeah. So first things first, and just to note that first things first is one of my favorite little sayings in taking care of myself. So if the overwhelm hits, I go, okay, first things first. Am I hungry? Do I need a nap? Do I need to go to the bathroom? And you just do literally the simple stuff. But yeah, setting aside that time to declutter, go through items that you no longer use, and it's a really effective way to like lower stress. If our environment is organized and calm, we're a lot more likely to be mentally clear and calm. So, and I do go a little bit deeper into this one. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
good.
yeah,
I I'll wait till you go through this because then I've got a question for you on this one because this one's really, really hard for me.
yeah, yeah. So incorporating calm into your new organized space. Yeah. Um, when you go into the spaces that you frequent often, you want to feel good and calm. So and like I say here, you don't have to be an interior designer. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just think about a color that you like. Or for me, it's like a aqua blue kind of turquoise waters type thing. A picture of the beach, something that even subconsciously helps you to feel a little bit more calm. Being creative, and it's just important to love the spaces where you spend time. So yeah, I would love to hear your question.
So I'm like a medium level hoarder.
Yeah.
I know there are people worse than me, but I've got a lot of crap around. It's hard for me to get rid of stuff. So like this is also a whole topic in itself. Like I know there are therapists who just work on hoarding, but I believe this. I know this. I know that having a calm space can bring a calm mind and all these other things. But do you have any recommendations for people like even my workspace? It would take so many hours for me to get it cleaned up. And
Mm.
in the meantime, are there things that I could do or recommendations you have that can help me get a little bit of this until I can get a lot of it? Like I want in the future to have a cleaner space. I want to not be a hoarder. I want all these things. But if I'm not there yet, do you have some tips for me to take little baby steps toward this part of the inviting calm into our lives?
Sure. Yeah. The first thing that came to mind was, as hard as it can be sometimes, is use what you have. So don't go and find anything new, but look through the stuff that you already have and see what brings you joy, what brings you calm. And because shopping and spending money and bringing in more stuff would just add to the issue, right? So definitely just taking an inventory, even if it's a few minutes, but and then really just like clearing off one small spot or working on one pile of paper. But you're right. I mean, it does take time and can be super overwhelming. So it's a little bit at a time is how you would do it, or hiring a professional too to help. But I know how it can it can pile up and get so overwhelming that it's like, no, I can't touch any of that.
Yeah,
And
for
things
sure.
have, yeah, things have value and sentimental value. And, um, but I guess setting aside a little bit of time, even if you make it a few minutes a week or something like that, and you can say, okay, I'm just gonna see if I still wear this corner of my closet, or yeah, like look through a few of my books. Like you have to break it up into tiny. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? So you can't just go all out, but you have to kind of do little bits at a time. Making it fun, like inviting somebody over to help could be helpful. But yeah, that's a tough one. I hope that's helpful a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, so sleep is wonderful for stress. And like you said, Robin, yeah, it's tough. It's a whole skill in itself to get our 8 hours and feel relaxed. So some little tips on how to get there would be to really focus on going to sleep at the same time and waking at the same time. And that would have some variation like on the weekends, but getting it as close to the same time as possible can help. And then just like you have a morning routine, an evening routine can be helpful. So like once the kiddos go to bed, gosh, which sometimes I go to bed with my son, it's just I'm exhausted, right? But if you can, to have something that's just for you, whether that's tea, chocolate, listening to music, taking a bath, something in the evening that brings down your energy. Um, the environment, yeah. I mean, I work with a lot of students on ideas for their sleep environment, and we give ideas like noise machines and blackout curtains. And because, yeah, when you're a student too, you share spaces and things like that, it's a little different. But and using bedtime to do work. So I know how that can be, especially in an industry where you have your work at your fingertips and your phone and your computer. It can be really tricky, but staying away from that, and also not doing it in your bedroom area can be helpful. That's a little one. So like I'll catch myself trying to do work in bed, and it's like, no, this space is for sleep. I have to honor that. So I'll push myself out to the living room. And yeah, it can help just to really protect that energy that's your sleeping space. Okay, so this is one of my favorites too, prioritizing nature. And I like to emphasize this for anybody who works in the tech industry because of how stimulating or the screens are, and how long the hours are, just the specs of a tech career. But we can balance that by getting back to nature, and your natural rhythm will be channeled when you spend time outdoors. Making plans for your next outdoor trip, and or so it can be something big like a trip, or it can be small like spending time in your garden or a neighbor's garden, adding in a walk, grounding. So even just like on a lunch break, taking off your shoes and feeling the grass or wherever you are, which is a whole nother note, like taking your breaks. As a wellness professional, it's so hard to get a lot of people just to take their breaks, and which surprises me, but it's hard. Yeah, that time, the clock is going. So um yeah, nature. So just a quick note about the stimulating substances, just having awareness around like the time of day, if you're having coffee, especially if you experience anxiety or have trouble sleeping, just having awareness around it, and noting, okay, this is something that I want to continue to use, or maybe I want to back off of. But yeah, I mostly put this in here. I mean, for me, I have caffeine and my heart goes crazy, and it doesn't do well for me. So I'm envious of people who can do that, have coffee, but it can mess with your system a little bit. So a quick note about health coaching too, and like what I do. And hiring a health coach and just benefits of that, it's a wonderful place to have a mirror for yourself to help with decision making. So, like, if you ever feel stuck, if you're not sure what's next in your journey, um, so forward moving, I really like to think about having a health coach as post therapy work. So, like, therapy is for looking at your past, clearing things up, addressing your past, and then coaching is looking forward, making plans, having goals, and having an accountability partner. Um, so yeah, it's super fun to work with people and have them meet their goals and be part of that journey. It's just wonderfully rewarding. Yeah, and of course, just if you're having trouble getting started on your health journey, then it's wonderful to get ideas from a health coach. And this image here is a wellness wheel. So it just highlights different areas of your life that can affect your individual self. So it helps to look at, and there's some exercises, maybe you've seen these, Robin, where you put a dot of where you think you are, and then you like make your circle. Yeah. And see where you need to spend more energy. So that could be helpful to look at that exercise too. So creating a stress cushion, and we're doing good on time here. I have about maybe 5 more minutes, Robin, if that's okay. Wonderful. Um, so noticing, naming, and addressing the stress that you feel, unless it's an emergency, of course, then that flight comes into play, and that's really important. Um, Again, the thinking, so not catastrophizing stress. It's totally normal. We all have it. We experience it, and unfortunately, it's we have to kind of appear okay a lot of the times. So again, finding people who you can talk to and not be okay with is really helpful too. Um, be loud and proud about building this cushion for yourself, and have a boundary that says, this is what I'm doing for myself, and I'm not going to let things encroach on that. It's really important for me. Yeah, so
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by a stress cushion? I love seeing this person taking this nice rest, but what is it like? Tell me what you mean by creating a stress cushion.
yeah, absolutely. So by cushion, I mean like we go back to that coping and then prevention slide a little bit, and um, the cushion would be in the middle there. It'd be like, and it'd be all these things that we put into play, like meditation, healthy eating, sleep, all the health things, so that we have a little bit of a softening when stress comes. So it's instead of stress coming over us and us reacting, or or doing having bad habits. It's more of a cushion of like, okay, what are my practices that I'm going to put into play so that I don't get into overwhelm, or or have to see the doctor for internal issues, things like that.
So all the preventative things, all the tips and the wonderful things that you talked about, that is how we create the stress cushion. And then
Exactly.
that way when a stressor comes to our life, we're not hitting the ground hard. We have things to bounce into that cushion that blow for us.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for helping me visualize that and understand it. I wanted to comment. I had this question, or really just this thought before at the beginning of the presentation, when you were talking about how we know what stress looks like and understanding the way that it feels in our body and the physiological manifestations that we get from stress, and connecting that to noticing when we're under stress. I've noticed a few things for myself, like what my body's doing when I have a little mini panic attack, or when I'm having, when I get a big environmental stress or something happens to me. And I'm extremely old, so this has taken me a long time to learn this, but just recognizing, like, now I know when my heart starts to beat in a certain way, or when I notice a shortness of breath, or whatever it is. I know that it's different for everyone, but that's been a great cue for me to say, oh, whatever you're doing, you need to stop doing that, right? Take a moment, recognize, move away from that. And so I think sometimes we feel negatively about these physiological responses, but
Yep.
really they're such a wake-up call for what we need, and so even though the physical sensation is unpleasant, it really is getting us to say, "Oh, whatever you're doing, you need to not be doing that right now." Like, it's causing you harm, it's, causing problems for you. So, I've been grateful that I've been able to recognize really just in, like, the last 5, 10 years, I've started to notice this more clearly for myself. But that's been a helpful thing for me to
Mm,
recognize the physiological signs so I can make a shift, make a difference.
mm. That is so important. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's true, and it takes time and awareness, yeah, to realize what your body's trying to tell you, but it happens like you said, it's different for everybody, so it could be a stomach ache or a headache or neck pain, whatever, or acid indigestion, but just going, "Oh, okay, let me reflect on that," before it gets to the point like you're in pain and you have to go see a physician. That, yeah, and I think women are fairly better at that and being aware and responding to our stressors, whereas as male identifying people push through. So luckily, yeah, I'm glad to hear that you've recognized, especially the heart stuff. Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, so um, I just wanted to note here towards the end that we should all recognize, remember you got this far, and taking action for positive thinking, being aware of self-defeating thoughts. These are just kind of like little sum it up thoughts. What's the story you're telling yourself? And after all, you are a kick-ass mom who works in a very cool industry. And like I remind myself, I'm doing it, right? So yeah, that's all we can do really each day. So yeah, thank you so much, Robin. And I just wanted to note that this is a website, my website, where anyone can go for some tips or to find out more. There's a YouTube channel that I have, but yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to speak to your audience. It's been a total pleasure. Are there any other questions or anything I can help with?
I don't think so. This was really comprehensive. You had lots of different things when you'd bring up a new slide. I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that one," right? So I love this presentation,
Oh,
and I appreciate your very calming presence as you are
oh,
putting this forward. So thank you for that. I think I'll just return just as we're closing out to the conversation that you brought up in the very beginning about how we're not going to bring any shame into what we're doing as we're recognizing this. I think everybody that's part of the Tech Moms community is on a journey of change. We're on a transformative journey in our lives as we are moving into new careers, getting new education, making lots of changes in our lives. And sometimes when we're moving forward in those transformative times, it can be easy to feel um, it's easy to feel overwhelmed in those moments, like, "There's so much I need to do." But
yeah.
then also when we can't hit all those things at once, we're like, "Oh, why can't I do that? Why am I still failing at this? Why am I still coming up short?" So, this is such a great reminder to us that this is a long process that we're going through, and it will look different for everyone, but there are so many tools and resources at our fingertips that can help us be healthy as we're going through it and move forward in that way to know every positive change that we're making for ourselves is getting us a little bit closer to where we want to be moving on our journey. So we don't need to feel in a rush. It's not a race, right? We don't need to feel like we're not good enough because we haven't hit all our goals or these milestones or things that we would be expecting. So I love that idea of eliminating shame from the process and just recognizing that uh, we all have a long way to go. Life is long and our journey will be long, right?
It's so true. Yeah, and that brought up a thought for me on comparison. I am in this journey of you have to let go. I don't know if anyone's heard, I think it's Mel Robbins' book or talk about um, torment or teach or something to that effect. So when you think about comparing to other people who are further along, it's just devastating to you. And but utilizing that as a teacher for yourself, I'm kind of reminding myself about this as we're talking about it. But yeah, that we're all on a different journey, but that we can be supportive of each other and utilize each other's, like learn from each other too. So yeah.
I think that's a great place to end, a great idea to end on, because we are part of this community and it's all about supporting each other and learning from each other. So I love
Absolutely.
that. That's a perfect place. Well,
Yeah.
Jenna, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
This was so informative and a good reminder, something we can all use as we're in the summer right now. It's very, very crazy. So many tech moms are like, my kids are home all day. They're driving me nuts. I'm trying to do my work, right? So
Yeah.
so it is a challenging time, but also it can be such a beautiful, wonderful time that we naturally can, kind of slow down, enjoy nature. It's a little bit easier to be out in nature when the weather's nice. So those are great tips for us. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we're excited to check out some of these tools and other resources you have for us. So
Oh, wonderful.
appreciate that. And thanks everybody for joining us with this workshop today. We will see you next time on next week's Better Way Thursday.